and I'll never back down. In the middle of the ring is where I lay the smack down. Against all odds, I will always prevail. The way you step to me is like hell in a cell.
Greetings and salutations, this is Christopher Daniels. I'm talking to my main man Delzinski right now. Any video game show, any video game channel, any YouTube channel called Vintage Shizzle is indeed hashtag Daniels approved.
Yo, alright guys, Delzinski here. It's another We Talk weekend and I'm joined by my partner in crime, yes, Smack Talks. How are you doing, mate?
I'm doing well, man. How's you?
I'm very good. Thank you very much. It's been an up and down week in terms of wrestling, particularly with some real shocking news in regards to Rowdy Roddy Piper.
Yeah, it's like devastating news breaking last night.
Yeah, so I mean, we're going to talk a little bit about Piper because that really, I think, shook the wrestling universe by its foundations, but I mean, we've got quite a bit to talk about. So obviously, Rowdy Roddy Piper's passing. Quite a lot on Raw. Some good, some bad.
Some awful.
Some awful. And the Terminator.
He's back.
He's back. He's coming to WWE 2K16. Right.
It's an interesting choice, isn't it? You're going to rush out and pre-order?
I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm convinced yet, to be honest.
I don't know. I think it'd be interesting. It's certainly something different. I don't think anyone was expecting it.
Yeah, we can definitely say it's something different, that's for sure. So yeah, interesting stuff. Guys, just to let you all know, We Talkers, if you haven't found out already, I do have a video up on my channel about some t-shirts, so you can officially be Delzinski approved. So if you do want to grab a t-shirt, then I will leave the link in the description box below of this We Talk. And I did say, Paul, that anybody that does pick up a t-shirt, if they tweet me a picture of them in their t-shirt, they will get featured on We Talk as well. So as I said in the video, best of both worlds.
It is best of both worlds. They can get featured on We Talk and show off the t-shirt.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, guys, make sure you check it out. Link in the description box below, and all you've got to do is purchase. There's only 7 left, so yeah.
Gotta be quick.
Yeah, get in there quick before they're gone. But let's talk about it then. So we're starting We Talk on a bit of a somber note because obviously last night, and I was completely shocked by this, I got a notification on my mobile from WWE, I think it was via the app, that Rowdy Roddy Piper had passed away, and this is like 2 legends now in the space of a couple of months. First, Dusty Rhodes, and now Rowdy Roddy Piper. And Piper really is so shocking because he's obviously got a podcast at the moment. I saw him just last week talking about the Hulk Hogan issue. And so for him to pass away, it really has just shocked the wrestling world. And again, it's a heart attack, cardiac arrest in his sleep. So it seems to always come back to haunt the wrestlers.
It does. It was just shocking news, and it come like completely out of the blue. I mean, there's people that you would hear like something like this for, and like you might think, well, we're kind of seeing this could be on the cards. But when it's someone that like Piper, someone that's in health, it really hits you because it's something that you weren't expecting. And I think it's just devastating when you think that he's battled all the way through the cancer and things, and he was given the all clear for that, and then to be taken away so soon from a heart attack like that, it's just devastating.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it, as well? And there was no sort of signs that Piper was in ill health or anything like that. So it actually just, came out the blue. And that's, like I say, 2 massive personalities. First, Dusty Rhodes, who sadly passed away, and now Rowdy Roddy Piper. And I was watching a few Rowdy Roddy Piper promos before We Talk today, and I think it's his feud with Bret the Hitman Hart, and Piper was just so amazing on the microphone, and everything that he did, it just like Dusty Rhodes put 110% in. If it was a promo, he was crazy in some of his promos, but it's just so thoroughly entertaining. And when you compare it to these days where you don't always have that full-on gimmick, like I'll give you an example of like a Roman Reigns, you really do go back and appreciate how much they put into their personality, their persona, and like a larger than life character. So it's a real disappointment to the whole business that Piper's no longer with us.
It is. It's a big loss to the industry. And like I say, he's someone that was so good on the microphone. Him and Dusty are like two of the greatest. And when you think of Piper, everything that he contributed to the business, without him, there wouldn't be a WrestleMania. He played a huge part in getting that event up and being in the main event of WrestleMania 1.
Yeah, he's just everything about Piper was just exceptional. Piper's Pit, I mean, you can't really forget how great he was. Every time he had someone on there, something was going to go down. And it always, well, nearly enough, usually did. But I do think with Piper passing, do you have any favourite Piper matches? I think for me, I really always enjoyed the Piper versus Brett match. I think it was at WrestleMania 8.
That was a great match. I don't know if I can like single one out. Like, I always think back to the WrestleMania match with Goldust, where they just like brawled all over the place. That was just like such an iconic thing. And I think at the time it was something that you didn't really expect, because it was more wrestling matches at the time. So the hardcore stuff was just like starting to come in. So that was like a really big moment.
It was totally awkward though, wasn't it? The whole thing with Goldust at the time, because that was when he's at his like most bizarre, and they had like the highway chase, where he was chasing the gold. Was it a gold Cadillac? I think, or
it was. Yeah, I'm sure. Did he run him down at one point?
He did. And then he got him to the ring, and he ripped off his Goldust attire, and he was wearing like women's underwear or something. And Piper was just so funny during that moment. It was, yeah, man, you just brought back loads of memories.
Just a classic WrestleMania moment.
It was, and that's what Piper was all about, creating really amazing moments. And I do think that I did want to touch on this during We Talk, that hearing the passing of first Dusty Rhodes and now Rowdy Roddy Piper, and both appeared to be on very good terms with the WWE before passing away. What does this say sort of for Hulk Hogan? Because I was thinking, just imagine, and hopefully nothing does happen, but just imagine if this was Hogan, and with all the ongoings at the moment, with the whole issues with the race issue, how would WWE feel if this came out of the blue? And how would WWE treat this if this was Hogan? Because I think they've really dug themselves a hole here, where to try and then acknowledge something like that, it would just be going back on what they've just done. And I think deep down that Vince would regret massively going to all this extent and efforts to try and blacklist Hulk Hogan. If something like this happens, it puts it all into perspective. And it seems like to me that this whole Hogan issue has been blown out of proportion. And when you hear something like Piper passing away, we really need to have a reality check of how much Hulk Hogan's being punished for such a comment that I think a lot of the WWE fans and the universe have got over, but the WWE just hasn't.
Yeah, I think it's been all a case of Vince like really sticking to his guns here. He's made the decision, and now even though a lot of the wrestling community and the wrestling fans, they've reacted to it as it was a huge thing, and it was wrong for him to do. But I think even The Rock come out and said, we'll all say things that we don't mean. And unfortunately for Hulk Hogan, it's something that's been recorded and now it's been brought out into public. So it's unfortunate that that's happened to him. You kind of condone what he said. But if you think it's been 30 years of WrestleMania and everything that he's done in that 30 years, being so positive and like telling people to just keep on fighting and get through everything that gets thrown at them, such a positive message, to be then brought down by one comment that's been leaked from behind like closed doors, it's a hard thing, and it makes you wonder what would happen if something was to happen to Hulk Hogan, because I think the industry in general, I think they would all mourn Hulk and remember him for the good things, because there's so much good compared to this one bad thing. But in terms of Vince, I think if it was to happen anytime recently, I think he'd stick to his guns, and I think it'd be something that he would regret, but publicly he wouldn't actually want to go back on. Well,
that's the trouble, and you then sort of look at things with the Ultimate Warrior, how the Warrior is at odds for years with the WWE, and then they finally did like bury the hatchet, and just in the nick of time before he actually did pass away. And I've watched the documentaries with Vince, who's quite not really featured that much in the Warrior documentaries, but when he does, you kind of feel that he regrets, not rekindling that relationship with the Warrior a long time ago, and luckily enough, it was Triple H that resolved that sort of issue. But you sort of think to yourself, well, Vince, if you regret that, just kind of look at what you're doing now and what could happen potentially if something does happen to Hulk. You're gonna hate yourself for it. And I do think that obviously Hogan and Vince have like this heated relationship over the years, lawsuits and whatnot. But they've got to be bigger than this. And as you said, Hulk Hogan is a massive pillar in the wrestling community, and without Hulk Hogan, wrestling wouldn't be what it is today. And that's where Vince, I think, still should bite the bullet. And let's just rise above all of this stuff that we've got going on at the moment, and look at the bigger picture that these guys have done a lot for the industry. Dusty Rhodes, Rowdy Roddy Piper, Ultimate Warrior, and now Hulk Hogan, and there's no need to to end things on such a somber note. It just doesn't seem right.
Absolutely, it doesn't. I think, like you say, if something was to happen, I think it's something that Vince would deeply regret. And when you speak of Warrior and how it seems that Vince would actually want to have rekindled that relationship, I think that's a prime example. And you would think that maybe he's learned from that in the past. And hopefully when things start dying down, then maybe they won't go to such extremes as removing them from the network, limiting the sort of footage that we see on there in terms of like WrestleMania and stuff like that, because you cannot really take him out of that. He's like such a big part. And I mentioned earlier that Piper was one of the individuals that really built WrestleMania and made it what it is. And Hogan is exactly the same. Like, you couldn't have WrestleMania without it. You wouldn't have the WWE without it. And that's all down to these two, Piper and Hogan.
Yeah, and Piper, just last week, that's the thing that's so shocking about it. Rowdy Roddy Piper last week was talking about the Hulk Hogan issue. And he said, he'd worked with Hogan, he's friends with Hogan, and he'd never, ever thought that Hogan is a racist in the slightest. Piper was like a real defender of Hogan and said, he's made mistakes. It was at a time when he was in a low point. And he said, if I'd had issues with my kids and stuff, I'd probably say certain things as well. But, we all make mistakes. We've got to move on. And I think he said, you just got to fight your way through it. So Piper obviously defending Hogan there. And I think that's probably the general conception from the fans and a lot of the wrestlers that have sort of moved away from WWE. Like you've mentioned, The Rock. There's a huge outcry of people to just say, get over this now. But WWE seem to have the hangover.
Yeah, I think they're just making it worse and worse because they keep on doing things to sort of keep it in focus, like removing them from the network, having 2K take down all the trailers with Hogan footage. It just seems absolutely ridiculous, and they're the ones that's actually keeping the focus on it. So I think a lot of the community, they just want to move past it. Like, you see people starting to make jokes about it and things like that. They're not as hung up on it as WWE are. So it's them that's making it such a big deal. And I think at the end of the day, we'll all say things that we regret. Unfortunately for Hogan, it has been recorded. But think of all the good that he's done. I think it's an awkward situation. It's something that obviously he regrets. But like you said, it's probably the worst point in his life. And it was said in anger. And we'll say things in anger that we don't mean. So just look at it in that context. And I don't think he's a racist. I think everyone's come out and said that knows him. And the people that know him are going to be the best people to judge that opinion.
Yeah, no, totally agree. And I think that pretty much sums it up in regards to Hogan. And I know we sort of went off down the Hogan route, obviously, from Piper. But, I just think the bigger picture at the moment is to take on board that, these legends, and unfortunately, and it's sad to say, as they get around the 50 and 60 mark, all that adrenaline that they had, back in their days of wrestling seems to really catch up with them. And we see so many wrestlers pass away at an age which I still think is quite young, it's kind of shocking. So why get to the point where there could be bad blood still when something like that does actually happen? It really is not necessary anymore. And we should look at that side of things as opposed to keep on, trying to create issues that really have happened and draw a line under it. It's just It's just stupid, and everyone will end up regretting what they've done otherwise.
It is. Life's too short, so there's no time to just hang around and focus on all these things. Just move past it and get on.
Embrace the power of positivity.
Exactly. I'm sure the New Day would totally embrace that message.
Yeah, so, I mean, it is a real sad note. And, guys, I'll probably say in the comment section below, let me know your favourite Rowdy Roddy Piper moment. I would say it's interesting because Piper did have a bit of a pop at Austin a little while ago. And I think Austin tried to bury that as well. So I'd be quite interested to see how Austin sort of reacts to all of this, because he was more in quite a lot of talking points with Piper before, obviously, this has happened.
Well, the reason behind that, like as far as I know, was Piper did a show where someone did an impersonation of Austin, and Austin really wasn't happy about it, so he got him kicked off podcast 1 because of it.
Yeah. Oh dear.
So there you go. It's another stupid thing, and I'm sure it's something that he'll regret. And it's just, again, it shows you, like, just don't get hung up on these little things. Like, life is too short, so just move past it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say in a minor scale, it's a bit like YouTuber things as well, I guess. Like, on a tangent, it's like, you know, people knock your content all the time. You just got to get on with it. You just got to think to yourself, well, you know, it's not worth getting bogged down about. Just whatever, keep doing what you're doing.
I thought you were going to say someone impersonating your content.
No, drawing a line under that. See, others, you know, have to bury these hatchets and move on and embrace the power of positivity, man.
Exactly.
So yeah, it is a real sad note. And guys, let me know, and Smack Talks via the comment section below, your favourite Rowdy Roddy Piper moments. Mine has to be the Bret Hart Rowdy Roddy Piper match. I think it was the finish with the sleeper, wasn't it? With the roll up sleeper.
It does ring a bell, actually. I might go back and watch that match. I'm sure there'll be like a lot of like classic matches that gets brought up on the network, because they've done like great show on Dusty Rhodes and like some of his highlights. So hopefully we'll see something like that on the network in the next couple of weeks. That just sort of emphasises all the best moments of Piper's career.
The roll up, I mean, before the matchup, I think obviously the roll up was quite an awesome way to finish the match. But the promo between Bret and Piper was amazing. It's like Piper talking about Bret's family and how he goes, it's just really taking a mick out of everything about Bret. He was like, I used to know your family, I love your family. And then he's like, and in his way, you know, his insane sort of way, and he was saying, you know, I remember when you used to tie your shoes together, but who cares, you know, you didn't know what you were doing back then. And then then he goes up to Bret and he tries to touch his face, and Bret just grabs his hand. He's like, don't touch me. And then and he's just, I just thought with Piper and his promos, the enthusiasm that he put into everything, nothing was half-assed with Piper. And even when he went to WCW and he had his feud with the NWO and Hogan and stuff, some of the skits and stuff they did with Piper then was just awesome as well. Did you ever remember the public service announcement with Piper where it was like pipes, and it was like his match going into, I think it was, I can't remember what event it was, but it was Hogan versus Piper, and Piper was almost like meant to be that authoritative figure for, I think, fighting the fight for WCW. But all round, Piper's career had some great moments.
Absolutely. Like you say, though, it's just when someone like puts so much into it, that's when you like really connect with them, because you can see how much it means to them and how much they're putting into it. And that's just something that we probably don't get as much these days. But Piper, I think he's just one of a kind.
And nobody can pull off a kilt like Rowdy Roddy Piper.
No one can.
No one. Good old Hot Rod. So guys, yeah, let us know your favourite Piper moments. And it's a real somber note to start We Talk, but we had to talk about it. And, you know, we've got to mention that the legend will always live on, both Dusty and Piper. I'm sure they're, you know, cutting promos and wrestling up above right now. So we're going to move on. And I don't know if we're kind of moving into a good era, or a good area, but it kind of lightens the mood a little bit. This, I think.
Is this something that happened on Raw?
Yeah, with that new superstar that lived in the box, you know, Dog Ziggler.
Dog Ziggler. I'm sure you could have like your own cartoon series. It sounds like a cartoon. Dog Ziggler.
I wouldn't be surprised if WWE actually go down that route and do that, to be honest with you.
It'll be on the network.
The reason why I bring this up is, was this not the worst segment that we have ever seen? Maybe not ever, but it was quite close. I think it gave a lot of things a run for its money. Having a fish and referring to it as Lana, and having Dog Ziggler and Rusev. What the hell has happened to this Rusev character?
You tell me. It's ridiculous, isn't it? I think the dead fish was just like the angle itself.
The trouble is I find him quite funny, as you all know, and I find his Rusev faces hilarious, and I do find the segments kind of funny, but it's not really what I should be thinking of Rusev. Rusev was supposed to be this powerhouse who was unstoppable, and they built it well when he first came up, and now he's just really lost traction, and he's just completely gone into this comedic character trying to belittle Ziggler and Lana, but the issue is he's partnered with Summer Rae, and that's not really what Rusev was all about, if we remember rightly. Why would he be with an American woman just on the basis of his character and his gimmick? And in addition to that as well, obviously he's done away with Russia and he's now Bulgarian, and that's just a massive cock up, because they should have just never gone down that Russian route anyway. They should have just stuck with him being Bulgarian and being obnoxious from that. But then they've reverted that, so really his whole character has lost every single bit of what made him what he was. He's gone completely backwards.
You said it's funny, but it's funny for all the wrong reasons.
It's cringe.
You're laughing at it, you're not laughing with it. It's ridiculous. Like, how bad a segment can you possibly get? Like, that's got to be like up there with some of the worst that we've seen on Raw. And I don't know where it really goes from here. Like, even the stuff with Lana, I was looking forward to seeing her in the ring. But the kick that you had on Lana, you mentioned this before, like, even that looked like absolutely terrible. So, like, I don't even know if I want to see this match anymore. Like, I was looking forward to seeing a tag match with Ziggler and Rusev, with Lana and Summer Rae also in there. But I don't even think that's what I want now. I just want this angle to end and something else to come up.
If I'm sitting there and I'm Dolph Ziggler, I'll probably be regretting signing a contract at the moment, because if this is a sign of things to come where his career's going, I would have rather gone TNA. I'm just being honest.
I'd be glad I was off TV.
I don't really. I would sit there and think, what on earth am I doing here? This is just completely ridiculous. If we're being honest, it's embarrassing, and it's embarrassing across the board. It's embarrassing for Rusev, because Rusev should be better than this, and he was built better than this. It's embarrassing for Dolph Ziggler how many times he's going to be held at this sort of level when we know he's clearly destined for more. It's embarrassing for Lana, because it's really destroyed the strong, powerful woman character that she had. And it's embarrassing for Summer Rae, because she had her face smothered in a fish. And,
it's obviously a career highlight.
It probably is for her at the moment, because she hasn't done much else recently. But it's all wrong. It's everything that we don't like about the WWE, in my point of view.
It is. It's like, it's that thing that we want to move away from. We want to get back to the wrestling and the kind of show that we see on NXT. And even SmackDown, like, watching that the last couple of weeks, it's actually like a decent wrestling show. It moves away from like all the like quirkiness of Raw, and commentators commentate on the matches and things. So I wish Raw would just like go back to that format, instead of like trying to put in all these angles to be entertaining and just have we're laughing at what's going on.
But don't you think as well, when you watch this sort of segment, you're getting that feeling that you know who's behind it all again, and you know who you think's right in that segment.
Well, it's very Vince, isn't it?
It's very Vince. And that's the trouble. I really do think that when we get to a Triple H stage, a Triple H era, let's say, we are going to get the wrestling show that we potentially want. I really don't see there being room for this sort of stuff. It just doesn't. It's just got Vince's fingerprints all over it in terms of it degrading. And do you know what's funny? Because we mentioned Hogan earlier, there's quite a lot of instances in here that are all the things that are quite bad about a Vince McMahon idea. And then we like look at what Hogan potentially said. So we've got obviously the stereotypical gimmick of like, the Russian or the foreigner degrading a woman, belittling women. And then we've got obviously Lana, who's a weak woman now. She's not powerful like she was. And it all got those characteristics around about what Vince sort of has made mistakes in the past, but has never had to really, look up and face the music. Yeah,
but he can get away with it because he's got no one that's like over his head overseeing what he's doing. I think if it was anyone else, if it was a right and things and there was like a bit of backlash, Vince would fire them on the spot. But the problem is he's got no one that would actually turn around to him and say, look, like you can't get away with this, like you're fired. So he can get away with whatever he wants. And until that changes and someone else is in charge, I really don't see much of a change happening.
I was watching a top 10 most shocking moments on WWE, and I think I did mention to you one of those shocking moments prior to going live.
You did? I actually got it ready to watch, but I haven't watched it yet. I couldn't remember this happening. It just absolutely shocked us.
Right. So let me just mention a couple before I mention that one, and then yeah. So obviously we've had Vince rock up on TV, and I'm only saying this because I just want to give you an example of some of the most ridiculous things we've seen in the WWE. Obviously we had Vince rock up to John Cena and say "What's up?" with the N word behind it. So Hulk Hogan topped that. You know, we had that. We've also seen Vince McMahon get blown up. So basically he died and then came back.
It's like life. A recurring theme here. It's all Vince.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a Vince top 10?
Well, it comes around to that. We saw Vince McMahon obviously have the Kiss My Ass Club. So obviously any superstar would have to kiss their boss's ass. You know, bit of an issue in the workplace, really, that.
I'm sure there was women involved as well, wasn't there? Was Trish one?
Well, he kind of, if any boss wanted to do this, then I'm sure they would. Basically booked himself in any scenario or segment where he could cop off with one of the pretty divas, because obviously he had Sable. He was with Sable, Trish Stratus, Stacy Keibler, like straddled him in the middle of the ring. And all meanwhile, I think most of this stuff happened while his wife was going through some sort of brain dead moment, wasn't she? Do you remember? Linda was in the wheelchair.
Oh, we're talking WrestleMania 2000, yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, she just watched it pass by. I mean, that's not dodgy in the slightest, is it? That's not bad at all, no?
It's just really questionable, isn't it? It's like, they couldn't get away with any of this stuff now. Like, people would just pull it apart, and yet somehow Vince has managed to do this over the years.
And there is one more segment, and I don't really feel that I should say it on We Talk, but maybe I should indicate that you could maybe look for it. I don't know how to do that.
Well, you can maybe leave a link in the description.
I'll leave a link to Vince McMahon's most shocking moment in wrestling.
It keeps people guessing as to what it is as well.
Yeah, because I think that let's get this in perspective now in terms of what Hulk Hogan said when you see this. Yeah, yes, it might be for the purpose of being entertainment, but is this entertainment?
I think it crosses the line, doesn't it?
Crosses the line.
It's way past the line.
And you know, when we see this, and I couldn't even remember this until I watched this top 10. When you see this, just think about what Hogan said in reflection. So, yeah, if you're going to punish people, Vince McMahon has a lot to answer to, which he clearly never will.
Never. It'll just be completely forgotten about. It won't be on the network.
Don't get me wrong. Obviously, we all love what Vince has done for wrestling, but Jesus, man, he's had some risky storylines, and I guarantee you, most of the storylines, he's the ones that he wrote.
Absolutely. Well, he's not going to let other people write it for himself. It's got to be all Vince. Like, he's going to have final say. So you can't defend yourself against any of this.
It's just, I just got like tons of Vince stuff running through my head now. Just tons of things that he's done, and it's just like, bloody
Get away from it. It's a bad place to be.
When will the Mr. McMahon character return to TV? All hell will break loose.
Absolutely. That's just going to be the sign of the apocalypse.
So, I mean, yeah, so I mean, guys, we talkers, what on earth do you think of all this stuff with Rusev and Lana? It's not, from our point of view, it's not going anywhere. It's not something we should be proud of seeing on the TV every single week. It's not doing anything in terms of giving Rusev any credibility. This is actually probably angling towards Rusev becoming a really solidified mid-carder and never going any further than that now.
It looks that way. I think he's just being taken over by a lot of other people that's coming through. And I think when you've got guys like Cesaro and Owens and things, they're obviously going to be able to steal the spotlight a lot more than Rusev. And it's probably easier to book them than book someone like Rusev and the character that he's got, because you can only do so much with it. And unfortunately, that's dog, Ziggler, and a fish.
Dog, Ziggler, and a fish. I mean, the best thing for Cesaro, if you look at this, is Cesaro's never, ever, ever had to be put in a real embarrassing segment. And I think the reason is because Cesaro's never really been one to talk. So in terms of booking him in promos, he's always been able to duck out of that. And I think that's on the merit that Vince doesn't see him as a talker. So that's a real good thing for Cesaro. So he's ducked a lot of the bullshit and managed to just keep seeing himself through to when finally WWE had to just acknowledge that, look, this guy's a great wrestler and we've got to push him for that purpose.
Absolutely. And I think one of the signs that creative are maybe struggling with like a certain character is when you do get segments like this, because they have to really kind of push the boat out and just go for something completely ridiculous and extreme just to kind of keep the thing going. But kind of transitioning over to Cesaro, I think the injury to Tyson Kidd, it's actually worked out really well for him, because he's been put in this United States kind of spotlight with Cena over like the last couple of weeks. And ever since then, he's like really, really sort of moved up and just shown what he can do in terms of singles action. And even though you say he's not a talker, he's getting that opportunity now. And it's really helping him connect with the fans a lot more. And they've always been behind him in the ring. Now they're getting behind him on the mic. And I think this program with Kevin Owens, that's just going to show off like even more what Cesaro can do, and that he is the full package. Because we've seen on SmackDown this week, he come out and he interrupted Seth Rollins. So Cena's injury, which I'm sure we'll talk about later on, that's kind of opened up even more of a spot for Cesaro. So it's kind of like all the stars are aligning for him.
Well, go on. Keep going.
And it's just like seeing him come out and actually get that mic time and cut it in the ring with the WWE champion. It shows that they've maybe turned a corner with Cesaro and they're now finally getting behind him. And it's that push Cesaro movement that we all wanted.
Well, I'm always going to champion Cesaro because it's like, I feel it's just been a long time coming and it's just been like waiting for that opening. And it's unfortunate that it has sort of happened with Tyson Kidd's injury, but this is where he should have been probably, 6 to 12 months ago. He was already there, I think, around Elimination Chamber time, where he was on that massive run where I think he even defeated Randy Orton in the build-up to Chamber, and we all thought potentially maybe Cesaro's got a chance as like an outsider. There was an element there where I thought that was his moment to strike, and they flopped it as per usual. But now I think he's there. I think he's solidified himself. And what I would like, to be honest with you, is I'd like it to be Cesaro who faced Rollins at some point. Maybe, we are going to talk about Cena, but I think that going towards Cena more is, and I won't talk about Cena just yet, but I think going towards Cena more for SummerSlam is not the right move when you have a guy there that's really pushing. And if you're not happy with Rollins' title reign, what better way to maybe give it to the guy that's the best wrestler at the moment? I do think he's the best wrestler.
Well, I think he's definitely up there. He's got to be one of the best two wrestlers in the company. It's just with what's happening with Cena, it looks like they're going to push him in the main event. But because of the injury, how amazing would it be if SummerSlam happens and we get what was probably going to be like a mid-card match with Cesaro and Owens, but they get thrust into the main event because of it. So we'll get like a triple threat with Cesaro, Owens, and Seth Rollins.
See, so that there, right, is almost like a dream sort of indie match as well. And it's like a match that if you were going to go to an event, right, and that was on the main event as Cesaro, Owens, Rollins, world title on the line, that's like the dream match. You ain't got any fluff or frills around
no
it. No
fluff here.
There's none of that. It's just real. It's just a good, solid wrestling match with three great competitors. And, I would not knock that being the main event at SummerSlam.
I would love it. I think it's like a great main event. Like it's not it's not two huge names like having Rollins and Cena, which I think is probably what they're trying to go for with putting Cena in the main event. But Rollins, Owens, and Cesaro, that would just lead to such an incredible match. And because we've got The Undertaker as the main event, like I don't think it really needs to have like huge star power in there. I think just give the fans what they want and give them an incredible wrestling match. And then you can sell the event on Undertaker and Brock Lesnar.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've got your big superstar match in terms of Lesnar and Taker, so why not have that other sort of match? Why not have that? I really don't think it's necessary, and that's probably going to bring us on to Cena, but I really don't think it was necessary to shift Cena to the main event. I feel that that's a whole money grab exercise from WWE because they think that, you know, they need to sell a bit more. Cena's that guy, but I thought it was completely wrong this week to have the champion, the world champion, tap out to the hands of John Cena.
Were you happy with the way you applied the move, though? That's the big question.
I was more happy with that, but I think that may have been the fact that he just had his nose broken, that he was a bit hacked off, that had happened and had to put that move on better.
I thought when he tapped out, though, he really went for it like a bit more. I thought you'd have been happy with that.
I was happy with that. I was happy that he applied the move properly.
You just said you weren't?
No. I said that I was happy with him actually applying it better, but I feel there was a bit of anger in there from him actually having his nose broken.
I thought so. I thought like he was like, you've just broke my nose, I'm going to make this hurt.
So I don't think he would have done that if that hadn't happened. But I will say that he still didn't apply the move properly.
Wait, he never does, but it's not going to change, is it? It's just the way it is.
But it looked like it hurt. That's the main thing. It looked like it was put on with a bit of pain and a bit of passion, whereas we don't get that a lot. So yeah, I will credit Cena on that point.
Well, Rollins did come out on SmackDown and say that he only tapped out because it was a bit strategic. Like, he's got bigger things in the future with Lesnar. He wasn't going to waste his time and get stuck in a move with John Cena where he could injure him.
See, that's a good counter to it. But on the other hand, why is the champion get himself in a predicament where he's going to have to tap out anyway? Just duck out the ring and call it quits like Owen does most weeks.
Yeah, just go the Kevin Owens route.
Yeah, just say I don't want to do this anymore. And I don't think booking Cena back where in the main event is really something I want to see. And I wouldn't be surprised if he does get booked in the main event if he doesn't take the title, because I really think that Rollins' championship reign is beginning to look really shaky now, and I feel a bit sorry for Seth because I think his title reign could be better than what it is. It's almost like he's gone down a sort of coward route, and he's not really. I know he came out and accepted open challenges and stuff, but it doesn't boost him. It doesn't make him any more of a fighting champion.
It doesn't. It's like I've said before. It's kind of a continuation of Randy Orton as champion, where it was exactly the same thing that happened with him, and I think it was kind of forgettable, his championship reign and the matches that he had, because of the way that they were winning the matches. And it's been exactly the same with Seth. And as far as like SummerSlam goes, if we get Cena and Rollins, I think it'll be a good match. But I don't know if I really want to see Cena back in the main event picture already. And we've already seen Cena and Rollins on Raw. So getting it again at SummerSlam, give us something else that we haven't seen before.
I think there's got to be a point where they draw a line of who's going to be the dominant sort of corporate champion or the authority champion, because we've had two now that really haven't, succeeded, with Orton, and now we look at Rollins. So when are we going to get the guy that's going to be the dominant one? The one that is it Lesnar? Is it Owens?
It's probably Triple H.
I think there's got to be a point where you pull it round and you start having a guy who actually does have the authority. Because at the moment, this authority whole story, what authority have these guys got? It's nothing. It's that actual authority in itself has fallen to pieces. Triple H hasn't really been around that much. And when he did try and stamp his authority with Lesnar Taker, didn't do a very good job at that, did he? So...
Exactly. It's just the whole authority thing when it started. It was all about the power, having the championship and being the ones that run the show. But Triple H and Steph have that anyway. So it's like, why do you need the authority stable when you're already the authority? If it was someone that wasn't in power and they had a stable where they were taking over Raw and running it because, they were the best to hold the championship, then that makes sense as the authority. But when you already have the authority, why do you need the stable so much? I don't get it. I think it's past its time. I think it's time we move on to something else and just ditch the whole authority faction. And with a lot of people speculating that we could see a Shield reunion, maybe Rollins could actually leave the authority at some point.
I would rather see a Shield reunion for the authority.
under the authority banner.
Yeah, at least it would give them a bit of power.
The shield of authority.
Well, I don't really understand what's going on at the moment in terms of if you're going to be the authority, then you go and recruit the best and the strongest. And there's quite clearly one guy that is the strongest, and it's Brock Lesnar, and you haven't managed to agree anything with Lesnar. You had Kane, who's now disappeared, so Kane's very likely to probably rock up and help The Undertaker at some point. So, you know, I discount him being any reason to be in the authority very much longer. J&J Security add no sort of strength or muscle to him. So they have Rollins, and Rollins is not doing that great a job. So when you look around and you look at the bigger picture, shouldn't they be shopping around for somebody who is going to dominate and recruit people that are going to be, you know, dominant? And there was loads of guys they could have picked from about a few months ago. You could have even picked Rusev to get in there. Could have had Rusev, Owens. There's tons of options. And they've stuck with this weak faction, and it does nothing for what the name says. They're supposed to be authoritative.
Exactly. I think what we're seeing on Raw with like Triple H cutting the promo mentioning Owens, I think Owens could fit in as the authority's guy, the next guy, because it's obvious that Triple H is someone that's backed Owens. He's someone that brought him up from NXT, gave him the first match against Cena, and then bringing up the point of, you know, even Cena has won these last two matches. Triple H still brought up the fact that Owens was the one that beat Cena in his first match in the WWE. So I think that could still be like a reason to incorporate Owens in authority and maybe make him the next sort of diamond that they've got coming through to take away the title from Rollins. And maybe if this thing happens with Cena, he does not make SummerSlam, and we do get like a triple threat with Cesaro and Owens, then it could be a good time to actually change it round and push Owens instead of Rollins as the authority's main guy.
Well, wouldn't you like to see... I think this works perfectly now you've mentioned it. If we just maybe have Owens pick up the title, and then he have a long-term feud with Cesaro.
But that would be amazing. That's like a dream thing. But I can't see them dropping Rollins like that. Like I can see them dropping him from the authority. I mean, I can't see them dropping him from the main event picture. I think they'll still be around it chasing the title for a couple of months to come.
I just think at the moment, I look back at a faction that was pretty much the original authority, which was the Corporation. And you look at how dominant that was, and when they weren't dominant, they'd recruit. And when does the authority really recruit? And, you know, we had like The Rock as the corporate champ. We'd have things like when things were going wrong, they'd pull Shawn Michaels in as the commissioner. We had the big boss man who was like, you know, you're almost as such like your henchman who would go and do the damage, which should have been really like a Kane. Doesn't really compare. Then you look at something like the authority had the Big Show, but the Big Show, this version, is not anything like what we'd seen previously, like a giant who was dominant as well. So I just look at the Corporation of how it was set up before, and you would have week in, week out, you would have Vince, Shane, you know, all involved and talking up a game, but they back it up week in, week, and they dominate. But they dominate the show so much that it made them look strong, whereas what happens now with the authority is they dominate the show, but they don't dominate it to have any respect. They dominate the show in the way that it's just kind of like, oh, it's another authority segment, and they're not really doing anything, and they're just whinging about not being strong enough, and we've got Rollins coming out and doing silly things like giving cars away. Nothing really builds to any sort of sheer like power.
Well, there you go. It's the same thing again. It's like Rusev and the Fish, Rollins in the car. It's just trying to fill the time. I think the Raw's 3 hours is a big sort of problem that they've got, because they're trying to plan it across 3 hours, and it's just too much. And when you go back to the Corporation and what you mentioned about them being dominant, the thing is, the Corporation had those guys in the prime. So people like Bossman and Kane and stuff like that. Like the people that we've got now, Kane, he's well past it. The Big Show is well past it. It doesn't have that same feel. You want new guys that are coming through that's just dominating and really like putting their stamp on things. So they could have really built up a new faction, and then it would put those guys across for like the next 10 years. So they've got something to go back on, where like the Corporation members were all built on that time in the Corporation. So it would kind of have the same effect going forward. So if they pulled in like people like Wade Barrett, it could be a big thing for him. He could be like the boss man type enforcer. And I think there's so many different people that they could have gone with. But when you look back on the Authority now and you see Kane and Big Show, two people that are really old, really slow, and then you look at J&J and it's like two little midgets there, and it doesn't give you that same sort of feeling that the original corporation did, because it was just like such a dominant faction. And when you think of like the corporate ministry, you had the Undertaker and people like that. It's just a completely different feel.
And that's the other thing as well to think about is when we had the corporation as well, it was always like the champ was always like a solid champion who they believed in. And then you look at how we've done it with the Authority. The champions are always guys that are always being questioned of how good they are. But you handpicked them. So, you know, when they handpicked The Rock, and I think it was that Survivor Series Deadly Game, and it was all that big screw job of how the fans were behind The Rock and he screwed them over. It was so smartly done, and how it transitioned to making The Rock like the master heel, you know, as the champion. And it was like, you know, everybody believed in The Rock. You know, when The Rock spoke, you listened. You don't do that with Seth Rollins. You don't. He speaks and you just kind of think, yeah, you know, he can't back it up. But he should be able to back it up because he's a good wrestler. So I just think to myself, they've got it all wrong here. They've gone down this route where Triple H is always questioning his champions, but he handpicked these guys. So that doesn't make any sense at all. And I think if we just cast our minds back a little while ago, if we remember, it was Evolution that had to come out to almost join the Authority to re-establish that sort of power. And they were the three guys that I felt could take down a Brock Lesnar. And instead we had Seth Rollins and J&J Security taking down a Brock Lesnar. It's all wrong. It's like, you know, it should. Where are Evolution now? I know obviously Batista's off doing other things, but they're the sort of guys that you put your faith in to like make sure that you can hold the fort.
Well, that's a great example when you bring up Evolution, because when you think of that faction, you think of like four top guys, and when you think of the Authority, that's not what you get at all. Like, surely you should be recruiting the very best, and I don't know, like why bring in someone like J&J? Why not bring in like a really dominant tag team? Like, there's loads of other options that you could go with. I think the New Day would have been like a great fit. Like, they've got the power of Big E, and then people like Kofi and Xavier Woods to then back that up. So it would just work a lot better than J&J do. And then there's other people that we've mentioned in the past, like the Ascension and things, where they could have even worked as like the enforcers and stuff like that. And instead they've gone a completely different way and they just get squashed every week. So I think it's something that probably needs to end now. I think it's had its time and it just hasn't worked out. It did at first, but it's kind of just fallen apart, and it's just like what remains of it. Yeah.
And I think it kind of sums it up. And I think we need to get the We Talkers view on it, because what do you think of the Authority now? And you know, do you feel confident they're actually going to get some sort of payoff after all this time? Or are we going to have to like rely on Triple H coming back to the ring and you know, burying everybody and becoming the champion himself? Because they need somebody to, if they're going to keep going with this story, they need somebody to really take the Authority, you know, by the scruff of the neck and drag it back to being a proper powerful force. Otherwise, I'd say don't bother having it and scrap it now, and let's look at a different route. Anonymous GM? No, I'm joking.
Well, maybe not that way. But as long as like Seth Rollins doesn't have an opponent set for SummerSlam, there's always the way that Triple H could get his way into there.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if I really want to see it, but do you know what I'd like to see? And we're going to kind of move into it because I'd like to see Triple H say, well, you know, they should have done this when Rollins disrespected Kane, to be honest with you. They should have had Triple H pull him up. And I would say that if Cena can't compete, let's say we have Triple H versus Rollins, and then Sting arrives at SummerSlam and stops Triple H from winning the title after trying to really embarrass Seth Rollins, trying to teach him a lesson, but it's Sting that stops him, and then Sting can potentially get his revenge match. That's what I'd like to see, but obviously we plan to talk about this. Sting appears to be no part of WWE's plans, and I'm really, really down on it. I'm going to actually see a Q&A with Sting, I think, in October, and I really can't wait. But if I get a chance to ask a question, I probably will ask him that. I'll probably ask him, you know, do you not feel you can be utilised more in the WWE? Because I'm really disappointed in what they've done with him. Like, I think he deserves so much more respect than what he's got, apart from giving him a couple of DVDs and a loss at WrestleMania. Come off it. That's not what a legend gets.
It's not. I think he deserves like so much more. And what kind of like rumors for like leading in SummerSlam that he was going to team up to take on like the Wyatt family? I think that would have been like a great way to get Sting in there. Actually give him a win, because I think the loss at WrestleMania, it was so disappointing for anyone that's been a Sting fan to see him finally come in and then lose the match. And it was a match that he didn't have to lose. Like, there was no reason why he couldn't lose it. And SummerSlam was like, well, surely this is the chance to now write that and give like Sting fans like a victory to cheer for, and give Sting something in the WWE other than just that getting buried by Triple H and then, like you said, DVDs and using them for other ways of making money. Give him something back. And I thought SummerSlam would be a great chance for that, but for whatever reason, it looks as though they've kind of nixed those plans. But what you mentioned of having him do that, like appear in the ring with Rollins and Triple H, I think that would be a great way to kind of redeem himself. And then that could lead on to another match with Triple H. And again, it's just dream booking. Like, you kind of see it maybe happening, but it would be a great way to just get him back and get him a win there.
Well, I just think there's so many possibilities with Sting, because he's got like that Undertaker sort of mysterious style, and you know, he doesn't really have to have a lot of a reason to come back. You can just have the lights go out, and but if you did put him in that position of being between Rollins and Triple H, there is a storyline in itself. He wants retribution for his loss at WrestleMania. He could even Scorpion Death Drop Rollins whilst he's at it and just walk out with the belt. He doesn't say he wants to be champion, but he can just say that he's fed up of the authority still. And it goes back to the storyline that originally came out, that he wanted to topple the authority and disbanding it, which they forgot because they based it all on that it was WCW versus WWE. So,
yeah, it's
so
totally
there.
away from it.
It's there for the taking. And I don't know, I ranted so much after WrestleMania that I was disappointed with the way they treated Sting. I kind of understood that it was going to be a WWE victory. I understood that, but to see what they've done now, and I remember Sting coming out on Raw with that real emotional sort of promo saying, you know, I think Renee Young asked him, you know, what's next for Sting? He said, well, you know, if the WWE want me, I'm here, I'm ready to go. And they ain't contacted him. Or that's what from what I've seen. They may have contacted him, but I think you said before we went on the show that apparently he's got himself in even better shape, and they still don't want to utilise him. This is an icon. This is a guy that people want to see, and nobody should give us that bullshit that just because it's like PG audience that people don't know who Sting is, because those people are fucking idiots. Yeah, if you don't know who Sting is, then you know you're not really a wrestling fan, and even if you're like 3 years old, just Google it.
3 years old.
I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that you don't know who Sting is. Yeah. So don't give me that. All right.
I think it's just ridiculous that like they don't use him like well they can, because when you think of like all the segments that you come back where sort of those promos the videos would take place on the Titantron and Sting showing up, fake Sting. It all got such a like good reaction. Then surely from that, and then from the match at WrestleMania, they can tell that there's a market there for Sting. So it's just puzzling as to why they're not actually using him and utilising that.
And let's be 100% honest as well here, that when they did Sting, right, they built him up perfectly, and then WrestleMania, I feel they majorly dropped the ball because they could have had two epic entrances at WrestleMania. They could have had Sting's entrance, and they could have had The Undertaker's entrance, and both were botched because the stadium was still lit. So you couldn't get that feeling that you'd built towards for such a long time at WrestleMania. It was still awesome, but you couldn't get that feeling that you would have got if the lights had gone out, the crow, everything about it. And they've actually begun to tease that with Bray Wyatt, because as I said before, if you watch one of his promos, there's elements of the crow's going off in the background, there's bits of the Sting promo cut into Bray Wyatt's promo, and that's all there. And so you sort of think to yourself, well, they may be edging towards that, but but now they've like pulled the plug. But I feel that that's the best scenario that they could have done is have Sting doing that supernatural sort of stuff with appearing in the ring, maybe taking down Eric Rowan, then disappearing, appearing in the ring, then maybe taking down Luke Harper. And I would actually have it that it's Sting against the three of them, not maybe in the match. Maybe it's Bray Wyatt versus Sting, and then there's some run-ins, no DQ or something like that. But I would actually have it so you've stacked the odds against Sting, but he's the vigilante that wants to, bury the face of fear. Stop the face of fear. And to be honest, you could get about 2 matches out of that, or a feud out of that.
Yeah, well, it'd be really cool as well to watch, because like if you didn't so it was like Sting against Bray, but you had to like overcome the odds, then in the weeks leading up to it, you could have him just like the lights go out and he takes out one member, then the next week he takes out the other member, and it's like taking down those odds so that it becomes a one-on-one match. And then like I think that would be like a great way to do it, because you could cut the promos in between it and all things, like have them first take them out and you don't really know what's going on. But maybe they've just kind of left it too late and they don't want to rush it now.
Oh, yeah, but then when are you going to bring back Sting then? Or are you just not going to? Because you're getting to a stage now where you're WrestleMania? If he's going to go WrestleMania, there's probably only one opponent. He's not going to win that.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I thought SummerSlam being like a huge event, then that would be where you would bring Sting back. But I don't know if I could see him like come back on one of the pay-per-views between SummerSlam and WrestleMania. Like, it would have to be one of the biggest ones. So, like, the Royal Rumble is probably the next one. I wouldn't even class Survivor Series as a big pay-per-view anymore.
I just think there's so much you can do with his character. His character is unique because it's like The Undertaker. It doesn't warrant you to have to like do very much to get him back in the mix. You just got to have the lights go out, and then he's there. He's in the thick of it, and he's always got a purpose, because his whole original storyline was to topple the Authority, and he's never done that. He hasn't got the job done. It was so annoying to watch that promo and hear him say, "Well, I didn't get the job done, and and I'm going to go away now." And it was like, that wasn't the premises of the story. It wasn't the premises that you were WCW. It was never originally what you needed to do. But they've spun this that you've got to say this now. Stupid.
Well, it's just turned around, and like I think I kind of forgot I'd come in and like topple an Authority. So here when you bring it up, like I think it's a good way to just reintroduce that. Have them come back in.
You just got to clear them out. You just got a Scorpion Death Drop, the pair of them.
Well, that's all we want to see. Just have them come in, like set it up so you can continue what he started, and instead of like just dropping the whole thing, like what happens so often. Like I would love to see that, and it would be a great way to actually bring the Authority to an end.
And I tell you what, right? Add this to the mix, yeah. So let's say we got our match. Let's say we got fantasy booking. Let's say we got Triple H and Rollins, yeah. Title match. Premises is Triple H wants to take the belt. He's fed up of Seth Rollins being a crybaby, blah blah blah, doing the stuff he did to Kane, yada yada yada. Match happens, right? Yeah. We have it become one of those matches where obviously Triple H doesn't like the fact that Rollins is using the pedigree now. He wants to sort of punish the mentor, wanting to punish the student. Really does knock down Rollins to a point where it's kind of, not on, where he's almost disrespected him, maybe busts him open, really trying to teach him a lesson. Lights go out, yeah. Sting hits the ring, Scorpion Death Drop, just to Triple H, yeah. And then, obviously, you can't really have Rollins in the Authority anymore. That's when you can bring back the Shield. But the Shield is with Sting.
Well, I think it's a great way to go about it. And like you say, it's fantasy booking. There's so many ways that we could do it. It's just... I don't know if they'll do it.
The Shield, Justice, Sting, the Vigilante wanted to topple the Authority. They don't have to even be seen together, but they can work together.
It'd be a great way to do it, especially if like this was to happen after like a match with Roman Reigns and Ambrose teaming with Sting to take on the Wyatt family. Because I think if you see them early in the night, you would not expect to see Sting then rock up in the main event, and it would kind of tie it all together.
And it's just there for the taking, and it's the way you utilise Sting, in my point of view, properly and show him a bit of respect.
And you can kind of go on and have like the Wyatt family against the Shield again, which was like so many classic matches. once Sting has then sort of gone away again.
Well, we talk about maybe giving someone a bit more credibility. Well, why not have Triple H entrust his hopes for the Authority to re-establish power by relying on the Wyatt family?
Yeah, well, again, like when I mentioned the corporate ministry, like it's the same kind of thing. If you want to like get someone like the Wyatt family on board, like obviously not the fit for the Authority or like a corporation kind of role, but ministry, I think a corporate ministry like that would be a kind of great way to do them.
So it's just there, and it's there for the taking. They just don't think about it enough, and I can see these storylines going on for like 6 months. It's like, I don't know why they don't want to like venture down this sort of route with Sting. I don't understand what the hold up is. Is it they think he's not a draw anymore? Clearly he is. Definitely. Even Hogan was still a draw. I bet Hogan's merch was probably second or maybe in the mix of being one of the top ones. I bet you Sting's got a good sell as well. You just don't let the momentum run out, and that's what WWE have done.
Absolutely. They're just more interested in what they can do in terms of monetizing Sting and things that you can sell, DVDs, T-shirts, anything like that. But get them on pay-per-view. That'll sell like a lot of network sales, pay-per-view sales. And it's something that we'll want to see before the time's too late.
And you will get the occasional person that says, well, why would you bring Sting back when you've got all the young talent? You've got to focus on the young talent. Adding someone to the mix, like a Sting, to get the younger guys elevated more is not a problem. And so if you look at our scenario there, we've brought Bray Wyatt back from obscurity, because that's where Bray Wyatt is at the moment. We've given Harper, again, a purpose, and Rowan to support Bray Wyatt. We're looking at Rollins and giving him more power in terms of getting him back to the original Rollins, the strong Rollins as part of the Shield. So, yes, okay, maybe making them a faction detriments maybe them being world champion, but if we look at the way they've tried to maneuver them into the championship scenarios, it hasn't really worked out that well for him, apart from Seth, and even his title run's not that great.
Yeah, and like sometimes you need those legendary names in there just to help that new superstar kind of transition. And I think Randy Orton as the legend killer is a great example of that. So if you want to imagine like Sting going up against someone like Kevin Owens, and Owens becoming like a legend killer wanting to take out Sting, then that's a huge draw. It's something that you kind of need. You need those legends in there with the new guys, and it just helps them progress.
Well, that's what they did down at TNA with Ethan Carter, didn't they? They just used all the major names to make Ethan Carter the top guy, and he still says it now. He defeated Angle, defeated Sting. It's
exactly, and it gives them a huge list of names to then roll off and say, "I've defeated this guy, legend after legend." So it just helps make that person's career.
Exactly. So, let us know what you think of the Sting scenario, because that's what it's become. I'm thoroughly disappointed with the way that they've treated Sting so far, and finding out that he's not going to be at SummerSlam. He might still be, but finding out that there's an indication that he's not has just kind of made me think even more so that, this whole deal that Sting's got with them, they've kind of shortchanged him.
I think so. It's a case of like, they've probably made him a load of promises that he'll get his WrestleMania match and things. As long as he signs the deal, and now it's signed, well, they can do what they want.
I'm really interested to see this Q&A if people ask him some of those questions. I imagine they probably won't. I imagine it'll be more of a, respectful thing. And it's not about being respectful. It's just like, I think a lot of fans just feel that he deserves better. So,
well, I think so. I think Sting's one of them guys that you would expect to be that way. So you won't like any dirty laundry. You'll keep it till sort of afterwards, and even then, like even when he's not in contract with them, I still don't think you'll be the guy that comes out and sort of says what went on. I think you'll just say it's in the past and like deal with whatever's going on then.
Well, it's amazing, really, if you look at Sting, how he's never really given too much away over the years, and like even down at like TNA, all the issues that go on down there all the time. Has he ever said a word of bad publicity for TNA since he like left there? Never heard him speak of any sort of poor bookings or anything like that. And then you hear guys like obviously Magnus come out straight out and already like saying, not trying to bash him, but he's already moaning that they did things wrong and stuff. But Sting is like the ultimate professional. Never berates anything.
Yes, I think that's the one word that sums him up: professional. because you wouldn't expect Sting to come out and start trash talking anyone. Like, he always like keep his opinions to himself. And when you see everything that he's been involved in with WCW and watching that fall to pieces, everything that went on at TNA, and he hasn't come out and said anything, so I don't see why it would be any different with the WWE.
Totally. And just on a side note, before we talk about our final topic today on We Talk, I did see I saw obviously Jeff Jarrett inducted into the TNA Hall of Fame. Not really kind of understanding. Maybe he was. I'm not sure. It was a speech. It was on Impact, so I don't really know if I understand whether he was inducted into the Hall of Fame on Impact or whether they're saving that for. I thought that was meant to be for like Bound for Glory or Slammiversary, but I'm so confused by it all. I don't know. But I did see Jeff Jarrett's emotional speech on there. That was cool to see. And then I listened to an interview on Jericho's podcast about GFW, and it definitely enlightened me of what Jarrett's looking for. And listening to Jarrett actually talk about in detail of what he sees from GFW, I'm really actually now interested to see what he's working towards. I do feel like he was very clever in that situation with TNA now, like wanting to get on their TV show. They reached out to him. You know, he just wants to get GFW exposure even more. So I kind of think that Jeff can make this work now. After we've talked about it week after week, saying, you know, we think he might, but we're not sure about it. But the more I listen to Jeff, the more I sort of think, well, he's like obviously sat there and thought about all the issues he had with TNA, and really now has channeled all that towards this positive movement with GFW. I'm beginning to get on the bandwagon a little bit.
Well, I haven't heard the Jericho podcast, so I'm still in the dark as to what GFW is. You'll have to sort of enlighten us on that. But I did sort of catch some of TNA this week. I haven't got up to the induction part. But when I was watching it, I kind of thought it was a bit weird that we're having that induction then, because I think is next week like well, I was going to say a pay-per-view, but it's like a TV special. Have they got something coming up? No Surrender or something like that?
Be honest with you, I don't understand it. I always thought that if they're going to do an induction, it's at the big pay-per-views, but...
Well, that's the thing. I've just heard that like Bound for Glory is going to be like live in October, so I would have thought that would be when the actual induction takes place. It seems like just kind of a throwaway thing to have it on Impact. It kind of like lowers the importance of it, because surely it should be like a really big thing. But again, with TNA, I just question why it's done on TV. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And even watching TNA this week, one thing that like I thought was really odd was they made a point at the start of the show of saying that there was the return of Jeff Hardy, and then there was an interview backstage with Matt Hardy coming out of his dressing room where he says that they were talking about the stipulation they were going to choose for like the match with Ethan Carter, and he kept saying, "We've been talking about it," and Jeremy Borash was just "we." Who's we? And it's like, well, hang on, you've just said at the start of the show Jeff Hardy's making his return, so it's kind of obvious. You've given that away. Why would you do that? So there's so many good things about TNA, but there's so many little things that just kind of niggles away at you.
Well, I thought I know you haven't seen it yet, but watching just the Jeff Jarrett induction, and you know how emotional he was, it just solidified that he should have been the first one in the Hall of Fame, or his dad for that matter. He said he hadn't spoke to his dad in years since TNA sort of came to its demise from his point of view, because his dad disagreed with him about TNA. So it's really kind of interesting, you know, how that just seeing him accept that made me think, well, this sums it up, Dixie. Why was he not your first guy in the Hall of Fame? I know Sting deserved to be in there, but Jeff Jarrett should have been number one from the offset.
Absolutely. I think it was like a strange move not having Jarrett there. I think everyone expected him to be, but you can't really argue with Sting. I think they all deserve to be in there. Just maybe they should have swapped them around a bit and had Jarrett in there when he really deserved to be. But not that he doesn't now, but like obviously it made more sense at the time.
Yeah, I mean, the main reason why I bring this up is because I was listening to this podcast with Jericho, and the main thing was it was Jarrett and Magnus on the call, and Magnus did say, you know, there's a lot of issues down there at TNA, and when Jeff left, there wasn't that go-to guy anymore, and Jeff understands the business. Jeff knows about if someone's got an issue, they would go to Jeff. And now they don't have that go-to person. There's so many, you know, people booking stuff. It doesn't feel like things are being done right. Communication's not right. And I really think that Jarrett knows it. Jarrett knows all of the issues that are probably going on at TNA. He's just using the situation to make sure that he gets GFW even more exposure. And I think he knows. I think if he secures this TV deal, he knows he's got a real good shot of making something out of GFW, and he knows that he won't make the same mistakes that he made with TNA. I think he does.
Has he said in regards to the TV deal how close they are? Because I know they've already taped TV shows.
I think he said he was down to two to negotiate with. One is obviously Destination America, but I could see Jarrett taking over. Engulfing talent if he can get that TV deal. I think the show actually looks quite nice now, and I think he's got a lot of respect with the wrestlers, and it's a go-to place for them now. Like, I was just listening to Magnus, and I was kind of surprised how much pure respect that it is for Jeff. And I think a lot of these guys, like, I imagine if you ask AJ Styles, it will be the same. I think he's got that pull, which TNA have lost because of Dixie Carter. I
think so. I think he knows what he's doing. It's going to be really interesting to see where it goes, but I think he's just got to get things up and running first, and that TV deal is like the biggest part of that. So as soon as that happens, I think it's going to be really interesting to see how he runs things compared with TNA. I think a lot of people backstage are going to say like how much more organised it is and how good it is having that wrestling guy there. Whereas with TNA, like you say, it's a bit of a clusterfuck because you've got like so many people like trying to do things behind the scenes and book things. And I think Jarrett will just take charge and be like the overseer, whereas like Vince is for the WWE. And Jarrett being in the wrestling business for so long, he'll be able to say, yes, this is good, this is bad. And as long as he doesn't approve anything with a dog Ziggler or a fish, he's on the right track.
Well, the interesting thing that he did say is that because I think Jarrett asked him about the finances, and he said that they've got a stakeholder who doesn't want to, who they won't tell who it is, but they say that financially they're fine. So it's interesting because I wonder who that is. And then on the other hand as well, he was saying sort of mentioning around the issues that he'd had in the past, where I think maybe TNA thought that they could compete with WWE, whereas now it's just straight up hands up. No, we don't want to compete with WWE. We know that they've got 90% of the market. We're looking for the alternative, and we will give it that. And it's from a global scale, it's just really, I think, bringing in wrestlers from different organisations and giving you maybe fantasy matches that you want to see at the moment. And I think it could work. It's got to have storyline behind it, but I think Jeff is angling to something that he knows he could pull off. And I don't know, I think it's good. I listened to it and I was kind of coming away thinking, well, you've given me quite a lot more faith in what you're actually working towards now. So go have a listen.
I will. I'll definitely check that out just to see what he says about it. But like you say, I think it's good to see that he is just like trying to put out that alternate product and he's not actually going up for the WWE market. And I think if you want to ask Dixie honestly, like, was that what she was originally planning? I think she'll even tell you, like, she didn't really see that happening and it wasn't really her idea. I think that all comes back to Hogan and Bischoff taking over and wanting another go at recreating the Monday Night Wars. I don't think it was really Dixie's decision. I think she's just kind of been forced into it, like a lot of the decisions that she does make.
She probably has, but she should have seen that coming. She should have known, and that's the problem. She didn't stand up for herself, so
yeah, Jarrett won't fall for that.
No, exactly. So yeah, I mean, there's only one other thing to talk about, and it is Get to the Chopper
and pre-order.
Yeah. What do we think of this? I think it's good. I think it's different. I don't know. It doesn't make me want to just like go and immediately buy it, but I think WWE just love Arnie. Let's be honest.
They do. It's got to be like something to do with the deal that they've had, where he's like gone into the Hall of Fame. He's been like told to be in a video game, like all these different things. I guess it kind of means we might get the Triple H Terminator entrance at WrestleMania. But like what you've mentioned before, like a bit of a tangent, but you mentioned the Undertaker and Sting's entrances at WrestleMania being in the light. How weird would it be in the game if like that arena is in the light and it's outside, like watching those entrances? It's going to be kind of weird to see that.
Oh yeah, that's a good point because they're going to have to recreate that arena, aren't they?
Yeah, so it's going to be like open air and like daytime this time. where like in the past they've still kind of had it dark inside an arena, even though like you maybe see the sky. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how that goes. It'll be really weird to see. But getting back to like Terminator, I think it's a really odd choice to have the pre-order bonuses like the Terminator. I know we're getting like 2 versions of him. So I've been told that one's like Terminator 1, Terminator 2. So I guess one will be like the Terminator as in like the Arnold look, and then one with like the metallic like T whatever. Right. But I think it'll be like pretty cool to see. Like it'll be interesting to see what happens with it, because it kind of takes away from like 2K15 being all about like reality and like the simulation style, where it's putting a Terminator in there, it's kind of going back to the arcade style. So it makes us wonder if they'll kind of drop some of the simulation stuff.
I just don't know how we're gonna play as Arnie. You know, it's like
it's so out of place, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's kind of good, I guess, but I don't know what to make of it. I liked the trailer. I have to admit, I thought the trailer was quite cool. Although the stats of the T100, T1000, he was really way off. He had people labelled as United States champion, which clearly weren't. You know, when he was scanning these people, he was seriously fucked up.
Well, he said former champs, didn't he?
Did it?
I'm sure it did.
I'm not sure about that.
I'm sure it listed like Paige as like a Divas champion, like 2 times, had 2 dates on there.
Ah, so he was alright then.
I think so. Sort of sell out. I think it's like quite cool. Like I said this to you before, like it's good to have the option to pre-order. Like you don't feel like you're missing out on anything if you like don't pre-order this year. Whereas like in the past, like you'd miss out on Hulk Hogan and Sting. So they're like 2 people that you would want in the game because you might play as them. Whereas if you miss out on the Terminator, you're not going to be like, oh, damn, I've missed out on the Terminator. I can't recreate WrestleMania or whatever. So at least like this time, it gives you the option to pre-order if you want it. And if you don't, well, you're not really missing out on anything.
Do you think we could have some sort of mode coming out of it? Like, you know, if you don't beat the Terminator, then he activates Skynet and then, you know, all hell breaks loose?
How cool would that be? Like a Terminator mode where you've got to like try and take him down? Like Terminator against John Cena and he kicks out too.
Well, there's only one character that's going to take him down, isn't it? And that's the man with the shovel.
Oh, it's got to be, isn't it? It's got to be the game. It's all about the game.
Exactly.
Pre-order the game.
I don't know. It's interesting. I am looking forward to seeing it. I'm looking forward to seeing how they how 2K make the the looks of these. It'd be awesome. Do you know what would be really good? If he did come out as Arnie, and if you punch him, then his like skin comes away.
Oh, that would be really cool. Like, instead of bleeding, you just get some metallic there.
Yeah, so if the more you damage him, the more that the paint, like the face comes away. I think that would work. So
that would be awesome.
There you go, 2K, giving you an idea there.
There you go. You should get that as a concept.
Oh, man. I've got a few concepts coming, actually, whilst we're on that note. So, yeah, there's a few things coming out over the next week or so, I'll probably say. Have you got any plugs?
If you check out second channel, got some more Minecraft on there with Elle, and going to be doing like some other things. I think we're going to upload some FIFA videos this week as well. Oh, yeah. So I think probably put the main match on main channel.
Oh no,
where it belongs, right in the spotlight. You don't sound like too as though you're actually confident for a change. What's going on?
I'm perfectly confident. Don't worry about that.
Which match are we uploading here? Is it West Ham against West Brom? Was that match?
No, that one didn't happen. I don't remember that. I don't even know what those teams are.
Has that been Hulk Hogan?
It has. It's been erased from history. Yeah. We'll see how those play out, obviously.
Absolutely. Apart from that, we've got Community Showcase on the main channel. And hopefully next week I can start doing some concepts because I'm kind of freed up a bit of time. So I'm going to look to do that. And then maybe play a few other games for a change on secondary channel.
Oh, sounds good. Yeah, I mean, from my side, a few concepts. Been doing quite a few top fives, like in anticipation for 2K16. So, like, you know, could we see some multiple attires for guys? Hopefully they'll be built into like one slot. So, you know, you could have maybe 2 or 3. Maybe I've been given top 5. So I've been saying, you know, top 5 John Cena attires, which would be nice to all be built into the one Cena model. That would be the best case scenario. So
there's some cool attires in there as well.
Yeah, I mean, when you look around, there's some really good stuff on the community, which 2K should pick up on. So, yeah, check them out. Obviously, the T-shirt, make sure you go and check that out. If you do want to be Delzinski approved, if you do want to be featured on We Talk, then that's the best way to do it. Grab one of those T-shirts. And like I said, anybody that's already purchased one, I thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And yeah, obviously tonight, Saturday night main event as well, the aftermath of the Money in the Bank. So, you know, there's going to be loads of shizzle going down there. I won't give anything away too much. If you haven't watched Money in the Bank, then do so. And yeah, you can pick up where you left off last week. That's pretty much it.
Sounds good.
It is, hopefully. So yeah, guys, make sure you get involved by the comment section below. Let us know about all the talking points this week. Obviously, your favourite Rowdy Roddy Piper moment. Hulk Hogan, should we just draw a line under it now? Dog Ziggler, when will we see him compete? I'm really looking forward to seeing that. So, yeah. Cena, Rollins, is it off? Is it on? Should Sting get involved at SummerSlam? And obviously, the Terminator is back.
What do you think Dog Ziggler's finisher is going to be?
I'm trying to think of something really witty to come up with right now, but I can't.
It's got to be the pedigree.
Oh, you've ruined the whole episode with that joke.
I thought you were going to throw that in there. How could you not pick up on that?
I was trying to think of something, but I couldn't think of anything. Anyway, you've done it now, so. So yeah, guys, make sure you get involved. And on that bombshell of Dog Ziggler utilising the pedigree, I think that brings us to the close. So do you want to catch us later?
Absolutely. I'm going to go buy a Delzinski approved t-shirt to go with my new day socks.
Oh, man.
It's getting worse, isn't it?
Yeah, did you write these things?
I didn't. I seen a sign on Raw.
Oh, right.
I just stole it from there.
Cool. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, make sure you do. Go check out the t-shirts. Link in the description box below. And that brings us to the end of another We Talk. This is Delzinski and Smack Talks signing out.
Catch you later.
Hi, wrestling fans and gamers. Velvet Sky here, and I just want to say I've been hearing a rumor that Delzinski.com is the best place for video gaming and wrestling content.